So, big question on everyone's mind about Bonnie and security breach. Um, Usually because everyone's been questioning about this. When they saw him in the Ruin DLC, and also the mention of him from Freddy in the normal story. So basically something happened to Bonnie, which can be easy to link up, as you probably would notice from game to DLC. So apparently, what I think possibly happened to Bonnie, because in the DLC you see him on the floor, surrounded by like floor sign things, like floor sign robots. So they're all surrounded around him, and stuff like that, which I'll explain in a bit because I'll get to that eventually. Okay, so the first thing I want to start off is the first thing I want to explain is what actually transmissions was Bonnie linked to. So apparently, from what I know, Bonnie was seen going from area to area because of something that went down. Now, what I think possibly happened, Bonnie knew something was going on with Monty. That's what I'm assuming. Plus, the only other thing that would make more sense, usually, since I would think that Bonnie and Monty would most likely do guitar together. Because I think most likely Bonnie taught Monty, the guitar skills and stuff like that. But Monty became a bit more selfish as it went along. So, as I think that possibly happened, because, Monty's violent. So, what I think probably happened is he, now, I think this is to do with a kid or something to do with jealousy, which linked Monty to kill Bonnie. So apparently the thing I think that probably happened was, since Bonnie was most likely, I think the only case I think would make more sense is Monty chasing down a kid, which would make more sense, because it would make Monty even more violent towards Bonnie, and it would make a ton more sense. Now, here's how I think it went down. So Bonnie heard from this kid that Monty was chasing after her, to be an aggressive, which I think most likely happened. So I think most likely in case scenario, Bonnie most likely tried to hide the child, in his room. So I'll explain. Most people will think, that she wasn't there, but I'll explain that in a bit. Yeah, so after apparently hiding the kid in his room, most likely, case scenario, when it happened, he knew Monty was violent, and knew he went against his program. So, what I think happened is Bonnie went to look for him. So, in most case scenarios, he most likely spent a couple of hours in each area looking for Monty. And then, as soon as he got to Monty Golf, he actually found him. He actually found Monty. So, Monty somehow ends up showing up because, it's his area. So, most likely, I think that most likely what happened is he questions him. So Bonnie would question Monty about why he's went against his program and such. I mean, again, this is probably also due to jealousy because the way he would go violent. So Monty apparently is so jealous of Bonnie that he hates him. and that jealousy kind of built up in Monty. You know, of like Freddy being friends in general with Bonnie, and then basically being together. He was also jealous as well because he wanted an opportunity to get rid of Bonnie so that he would be lead guitarist. So apparently basically the thing that happens is the conversation between the two didn't go that well, and Monty ends up injuring Bonnie, which makes sense. So I actually think Bonnie ran while injured to get the kid out of there, out of the room, knowing Monty was dangerous. So most likely this kid got killed, which makes a ton more sense because I think Monty killed the kid. But Bonnie felt helpless because he knew how strong Monty was, but was unable to defend the kid fully. Mainly, like, he wasn't even able to defend the kid properly because of Monty was too strong, and he actually got to the kid, mainly. Also, another thing is, Bonnie was afraid of Monty. So that's probably most likely why, you know, he didn't fight back, as well. So the most case scenario after the kid died is Bonnie ran away, to a safe area he thought was safe. Well, so we thought. So as you would think, so apparently the next thing that would happen is he would run to Bonnie Bowl, which would make more sense for Bonnie, since that's his area. So most likely he went into this room, most likely, it makes sense. So Monty ambushed him, you know, by end up in that room with him. But, you know, Bonnie tried to talk to him, which didn't end well because, you know, Monty wasn't listening to Bonnie. He had enough. So, most likely what I think happened is, you know, Monty slammed Bonnie's head against the wall. So Bonnie fell on the floor. Monty got basically, but other than that, I most likely think he most likely, so basically I think he basically, I think most likely after slamming Bonnie's head against the wall, which most likely he ended up on the floor because of that, so Monty most likely clawed his chest, which makes more sense because it looked like a claw mark. So it also makes sense that Monty, after clawing Bonnie, actually used a bowling ball to finish him off. And then after that, mainly, you know, Bonnie, apparently, after Monty left, sent a SOS signal, through the cleaner, bots. So that would make more sense because, you know, it would come back in DLC, way. So that would make more sense as in, you know, like, what purpose it stands and stuff like that and whatever. Well, what if I told you that Bonnie was trying to reach out to Freddy? Trying to reach out to him, but Freddy never really went into the bowling area. Stuff like that. Mainly, like, what if Freddy actually did, though, at some point? Like, went into there to find the body, but, you know, but most like case scenario, Freddy never did, so scratch that off. So apparently the only one that knew about this incident was Vanessa. Vanessa was the only one that knew about it. So she hid So she basically tried to hide off the area as much as possible on where Bonnie actually was. So she lied to people when people started questioning it up and whatever, and did a lie on a ride that Bonnie gave the guitar to Monty, which most likely we all know is a lie. Because Bonnie never did that. Yeah, so it makes more sense that Bonnie's trying to cover it up, mainly, or Vanessa, because I think most likely Vanessa's trying to cover the whole thing up, so then people start to think that it actually happened. Stuff like that, so nobody knew who actually murdered Bonnie. Like, nobody knew what went down with Bonnie and Monty, because she probably felt like, if people knew about Monty being violent, they probably might not have went to the Pizzaplex. Okay, so basically, so we're gonna talk more about certain behavior that went on after, the whole incident of Bonnie getting murdered. Okay, so apparently, even though Gregory and Freddy never actually found Bonnie, they did they did have, a couple of references. Well, Freddy kept telling about Bonnie, and whatever. But, let's go even further, into, the incident, mainly. Okay, so, now, apparently, as you may know, Monty does get violent in his room and whatever. This could be a cause, because of the sign and stuff like that, because the sign that he actually did kill killed Bonnie. Yeah, so the way this makes sense is it does say on his sign that no autographs, which makes sense because he's too violent. Which is possibly the reason why nobody is allowed to talk to him anymore. Okay, so let's just basically go forward, for example, even further than that. Okay, so in Ruin, there's actually more to this, mainly, on Monty being really violent, especially when he's, destroyed somehow. Now, Monty doesn't feel like a normal, electronic. He acts like a vicious beast, which is basically to do with his jealousy and all that. Okay, so apparently the person that finds Bonnie is actually Cassie, which is Gregory's best friend. So, it makes sense because, Cassie gets, told to, deactivate everything, mainly. So she ends up deactivating these yellow bots, but she eventually finds Bonnie. Yeah. But it's funny that she never actually mentioned Bonnie to Gregory, which would have made more sense, because if she told him, it would have made more sense as, to basically tell him, the real Gregory, later on in the story, that she actually found Bonnie in the bowling area. It would have also made sense because, Gregory would have probably brought this up to Freddy, which most likely, in case scenario, if you basically play the ending, in the original story, Gregory actually got taken apart, mainly. Meaning he's just a head in a bag. So most likely, I guess that was the canon ending for Freddy. So another thing as we know it, so Gregory is more self-aware, and we know Vanessa actually survived with Gregory in the main story, so there's that. Which most likely the Princess Quest is most likely the canon ending to that. Okay, so apparently there is more based on this, because I think most likely it probably would have helped, I think, if Gregory learned about this, the real Gregory learned about this incident and whatever, and Freddy was like saying to like Gregory about the whole thing and whatever, after hearing Bonnie's name, Freddy would have been concerned on going back there, to see Bonnie. And even asking Gregory to fix Bonnie. Because that's how much, Freddy likes Bonnie. He was his best friend, so it would make more sense for them to go back and fix him. So, which might still be a possibility. So, we do know there's a sequel, to the game, which is called Hell Wanted, which could be a direct sequel to the actual game itself. But it's... So apparently I think it might come back to Bonnie, I think, or the sequel might come back with a new sequel, mainly, like another game. I mean, most likely, I think he might show up in Help Wanted 2, or he might show up in another game, apparently Bonnie and get fixed. Something like that. Something like that might actually happen. So it would be interesting for Gregory to, fix Bonnie, and Bonnie basically taking his revenge against Monty. So I think this would probably be better, because Bonnie killing off Monty would make more sense, because, Bonnie was inflicted with pain, and he knows Monty was violent, and, and I mean, even though this is not really a jealousy thing, Bonnie knows Monty can't be trusted. He would know. He would know the best thing is to take him out for good. So this is basically like his rival. So it would be wiser to take him out. Now, even though the other animatronics are fine, pretty much, Chica's fine because, she just misunderstood as a character. So Chica in a way is not entirely evil, Gregory could, actually, fully repair her. Even though she got her voice back in the DLC. So, but as for Roxy, though, she actually started changing, her attitude and stuff like that and whatever. So it could be a possibility for Gregory to repair all of the animatronics. Maybe, finding parts and repairing them. As well as basically giving, Roxy a fix on her face and, and the other animatronics. Also fixing up Bonnie, because Bonnie could actually be useful with, knowing on what's actually going on in the Pizzaplex. So most likely, case scenario, I think most likely Bonnie would have told them that something he knows is going on in the Pizzaplex. So another thing I think, apparently, I think Monty was also working with Vanny, which would also make sense as well, when you think about it. Because, Vanessa was actually wanting Bonnie to be demissioned, completely. To, rebrand and all that stuff. So she probably wanted him gone in the first place. And who best to get rid of Bonnie? Monty. So she most likely talked, about the situation, even though she really knew Monty didn't really like Bonnie. So it makes more sense that she actually got him to, confront Bonnie. So apparently in the main story as we know it, about basically I've explained already that Bonnie ends up in Monty Golf and whatever, but what if Vanny was the one that told Monty of his location? And, it was the one that made the vlogs, on Bonnie. So, it would be possible if, she was the one that told Monty of his location and such. Even with Bonnie going into the bowling area. So most likely Vanny told Monty where he is, since Monty really wanted to kill Bonnie. So that actually makes a bit more sense in general. I'm actually hoping, Bonnie gets repaired basically in the next game or in a DLC. I'm actually hoping either one of these things happen, because I want to see Bonnie back, because he could prove, he could actually be a potential character for a certain boss or something. So, as we know with Monty already, he actually was zapped in the water. He was actually zapped, but I don't think he was dead. I think he was sort of pretty much alive still. So there's other characters that probably would have helped with this case scenario. So to help Bonnie. Now, the other characters I think would probably be a good ally is Eclipse. Now, Eclipse is basically a reflect of Sun and Moon. So, as we already know about Eclipse, basically the sunny side is more of the good side of him, and the, and the other side, Moon, which is more of a serial killer. But that's because he doesn't like light, mainly, and he's more of a creepy stalker. But basically, with them being whole at the DLC in the end, it makes more sense for Eclipse to actually help, help out Bonnie. So I'm actually thinking, what if he actually was helping Bonnie, beforehand? Because, as we know, Eclipse is actually a good guy. So it would make more sense as into why it'd be helped. Because, as you would know, Moon and whatever does have a care side to electronics. Especially Freddy. Because, as you would know Moon does take away Freddy, to safety. Which most likely is the case scenario, because Moon is not a asshole in general. So it makes more sense that Moon would help Freddy, and whatever. So since Bonnie is friends with, Freddy, basically, since they're both friends, best friends, it would actually make sense that Eclipse was actually helping Bonnie, in some sort of way, which would make a ton more sense, since the other, electronics were somehow affected by, Vanny. So, as we basically know already, I think they were most likely affected, especially Roxy and whatever, and they eventually end up turning on people, because they even turned against Gregory and whatever. But I think that's because they were mind controlled or something like that, twisted to become more aggressive. Now, it makes a ton more sense that Vanessa is the cause of this, because, in the Ruin, you basically see that, Roxy actually changed sides. She actually got out of that mind control. She actually remembered Cassie, in the end. Which I believe Cassie is probably still alive, by the way, because she actually somehow still survived the elevator. So I'm going to explain why that's the case, because she would probably be in Hell 1 and 2, I'm guessing, because someone might go looking for her, to try and get her out. Something like that. Now, that's what I think could happen, because I think it could to do with repairing the electronics, and such, so it could make a ton more sense, in general. So that could be most likely case scenario, because I think most likely, Cassie survived. Roxy actually looked after Cassie, even though she's blind. Even though she couldn't actually see, but she actually could hear. mainly. So it makes sense on that case scenario. Now, what I think might happen in Help Wanted 2, something happens, like a returning character or a new character comes in, to, like, look around the area and stuff like that, and probably repair some electronics, probably Bonnie or something, and probably some others or something like that. Something like that might see happening and such, and also rescuing Cassie, which could be linked to the same area. So, something like that might happen with them, because that would be a good thing if that actually happened, because I would probably watch people play that and understand the story more in general, on what actually goes down with the characters and whatever. So apparently, I think that's all I'm going to explain, for today's video. If I learn more about Bonnie, in general, like, more lore around Bonnie and stuff like that, like maybe, like, if he ends up in Help Wanted 2 or something like that, ends up fixed or something, or if any lore changes, and whatever, you know, in Help Wanted 2 or something, compared to Security Breach, then I would probably update it, and such, on what things have changed and things that have happened to basically change the story in general to, like, you know, what I think of mainly. So yeah, so apparently, I will explain in, like, proper detail then, and updated detail basically by then, so yeah.